Do you struggle to find the right shoe for you? Do you get confused when looking at all the running shoes in a store and wonder which one is the right shoe for you? Does buying the most expensive and fastest shoes make any difference when you're an average runner? Hi, I'm Tim, and welcome to episode number 148 of the Flying RuNR Podcast. Buying running shoes should be one of the most exciting parts of being a runner, but somewhere along the lines, it's also become one of the most confusing parts. Walking into any running store or scrolling online, you're going to instantly be hit with flashy marketing, messages about carbon plates, foam names you can't even pronounce, and the suggestion that the shoe will magically make you faster. The truth is, running shoes are personal. What works brilliantly for you may not work for your mate, your coach, or an elite marathoner on Instagram. Feet are different, bodies are different, running goals are different, and no amount of marketing hype changes that. So on this episode, we're cutting through the noise. We'll talk about what actually matters when buying running shoes, the real pros and cons behind the latest trends, and why most runners don't need super shoes to enjoy running or even racing. We'll unpack how comfort beats tech, why fit should always win over fashion, and understanding how your own running style can save you money, injuries, and frustration. Whether you're new to running or have been doing this for years, this is about making smarter, more confident choices and remembering that the best shoe is the one that lets you run happy and without injury, not the one that has the loudest marketing campaign. As you know, we love running and sharing our adventures of running around the world. We are the only podcast with 5 7-star world marathon major runners, and this is the Flying RuNR Podcast. Are you ready to run? Let's go.
Teach the flying runner, run far, run free. Host the 7 stars, inclusive as can be. It's the flying runner for you and me.
Hey there, everyone. Welcome back. Now, before we strap on the shoes and talk about all the things you should know when buying a new pair of shoes, let me introduce you to my co-hosts tonight. We've got Tony, Lucia, and of course, my better half, Tara. Hey, guys. How are you all this week?
What are you sucking up for?
Nothing. I just miss you. I'm down the coast tonight and I miss you.
He's done something, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has.
Yes.
But I also notice how he says don't get caught up with the loudest marketing campaign and then drops the Brooks marketing spiel about running happy. Well done, Tim.
That's part of that's our catch cry at the end, happy running.
That lets you run happy and without injury. And so anyway, all good.
And how have you been? How was your park runs and midweek runs and all the rest of it? We might start with you, Lucia.
Had a good week of running. So yesterday being Sunday, because we record the podcast on a Monday, we had the Sydney Marathon Run Club. It was a windy one initially, but then it warmed up. So considering it was Mother's Day and it was Mother's Day Classic, we still got a really good turnout. So we're really happy with the turnout of that. So got a couple of runs in during the week. I'm using the treadmill at the gym a bit more so I can have some fun with speed. Also got my pacing because for those of our listeners that don't know, I'm pacing the 3-hour 30 half marathon at Parramatta next month. So I thought I should get a bit of pacing practice in. Happy to say I was bang on time. Okay, it was only about 3.5 Ks I was practicing at, but bang on. My average was what it had to be. So I think I've worked out a method to how to do it better. So yeah, it was a good week. Didn't get as far as I'd wanted to with my long run, but hey, overall, happy days.
Excellent. And Tara, how was your 501st park run?
So we did Warner Lakes and I got another sub 30 and I wasn't even trying this time. So quite happy with that. I think it's just starting to get cooler and becoming a bit more natural for me now. My body's going, yep, this is what you've got to do. Then we did our long run on Sunday. So we hit out 25 Ks on Sunday together. Probably had one of my better long runs that I've had for quite some time, which I was happy with. More consistent running and, yeah, just quite happy with that. However, the week before there was a three-legged goat that was on where we normally run, and this week there wasn't a three-legged goat, so I was a little disappointed in
And
that.
I was going to ask, is he still alive or is he now a two-legged goat? Who knows?
Or has he been someone's dinner?
Maybe.
I
Who
hope
knows?
not. I hope not.
And Tony, how's your week been?
Yeah, I went for a run on Saturday, just a nice little simple 5K run. I went to see my surgeon on Thursday. I'm booked in for the little cleanup on the knee on the 22nd of this month, which is a Friday. I'm just looking forward to getting it done and then going through a bit of a rehab. I'm pretty confident I won't be running Gold Coast. I might walk Gold Coast, but I won't be running. And just a big shout out to Mark Simpson for his valuable tips on how quick can you start running, and the time frame that he said was far too soon. He started running after his little surgery. So thanks, Mark. I will take your experience as advice and make sure I follow the general consensus, which is about 6 weeks after surgery before I can start exercising and doing some normal stuff. So looking forward to it. Yeah. So not much feedback this week, but Victoria Miles did want to let Tara know that she guessed the trivia this week. So well done, Vic. Great Ocean Road. And she's also run the half marathon there twice. So well done, Vic.
Yeah. Cool. All right. And it is, I guess, that time of the week now where we go to Tara for her first clue in this week's Tara's Trivia. Tara, what's your clue?
Thanks, Tim. So this one is a who am I? I was
Tara.
born on...
Sorry, you said who am I? So I said Tara.
Oh. Okay.
You can see.
Sorry, it's been a long day at work.
You see how this whole episode's going to go, Luch. It's just he's in one of those moods. So
he is. I'm glad he's down the coast. Yeah, I'm glad he's down the coast today. So I was born on November the 5th, 1984. I have a bronze medal from the 2004 Athens Olympics and a silver medal from the Beijing Olympics in the 5,000 meters.
Born in 1984 and a Beijing Olympics bronze.
Yep, silver at Beijing.
Yep.
And a bronze at Athens in the 5,000.
Now, I could Google, but I won't Google. I've got an idea, but I could be way off.
Googling.
No Googling, no.
No Googling.
All right. We'll leave it at that and we'll wait for your next clue. But in the meantime, it's time to go to the news. Tony, what's been happening around the world this week?
Well, something completely out of the ordinary is that Tim has given me a new segment with no names I can't pronounce. So a round of applause for that. But very interesting. If we remember back, a large amount of episodes, really, we had Dale Q on who talked about the Shanghai Marathon in 2024. And one of those key things that he spoke about was that it was challenging from a registration point of view, because I think, if I remember rightly, it was only about 6 weeks before the marathon that they asked or opened up the registration portal. And also the other challenging thing was it was very focused on Chinese runners and it was through Chinese platforms. So it was with great interest that we saw this week that the Shanghai Marathon is opening their lottery, and entries via a public lottery. Typically, they've got about 23,000 full marathon spots. Applications are submitted online via the official Shanghai Marathon website or the Shangma app during the registration window. International runners are able to register through an English language portal. All eligible applicants go into a random draw. And selection is not performance-based for general entry. It is purely luck of the draw. Acceptance rates in recent years have been around 10 to 12%, but the odds will obviously become less as it heads towards its major status. So very interesting. Alternative guaranteed entries include charity tour operators, the normal. But here are some of the key dates. Registration open 29th of April. Lottery registration closes the 29th of May at 2026, and that is noon local time. So I'm presuming that's Shanghai time. Lottery draw is then conducted on the 30th of June, and they'll be announced on the 30th of June. There is a payment window for successful runners, 30th of June to the 20th of July, and runners must complete payment within this window to secure their place. Unpaid entries are forfeited. And after the 20th of July, 2026, any unpaid ballot entries are cancelled and may be reallocated. So some pretty firm dates there, although I must say that percentage of acceptance is probably looking good for a lot of people. So it's good to see that they've changed their system and becoming a little bit more focused on outsiders. So Leach, what are your thoughts about Shanghai and their ballot process?
My gut is telling me that they're getting that they've been told that they need to change it if they want to be a major, and they're getting ready, like using this year as the trial. So when it's announced as a major, So I think they've done it in anticipation. Well, let's face it, Shanghai will get it, of being announced as a major and to be in line with the other marathons.
Yeah. Thoughts, Tara?
I like the fact that you can enter and understand what's going on now compared to what it was. I know it was a very, very difficult process beforehand, and even the interpretation of the website from Mandarin to English was not overly brilliant. So hopefully the translation comes through properly this time.
Absolutely. Final thoughts on Shanghai, Tim?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because this year's meant to be obviously their last year before they're announced, right? So remembering last year it was meant to be Cape Town's year, and then they got that cancelled and they had to extend over. This year's runners have all got provisional stars that if they are announced afterwards to be a major, then their stars count. Obviously, this won't be that scenario. These are just people who want to rock up to go and check out Shanghai before it's a major. So I think you're right, Lucia. I think it is a trial for how it goes when they are a bigger event next year. It will be interesting whether or not they have the lottery draw in April, May, June next year, or whether they'll try and bring it forward to maybe January or something like that to give everyone a little bit more extra time. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the episode with Dale was episode 75. So I think he came to us in 2024, and then of course we've had another version of Shanghai in 2025. So all right. So Shanghai is very interesting. So it's going to be it'll be interesting to see if any of our mates do it. So all right, last piece of news, and thanks, Tim, for making it nice and short and quick. And this is it's all about one of our favourite events, and it's about the Gold Coast Marathon. There's some big numbers. ASIC's Gold Coast Marathon has surpassed a record-breaking 42,000 entries with 2 months still before the race weekend. So that's for the whole race weekend. It's not just for the marathon. The event follows a highly successful 2025 where they had 39,000 runners and generated 65 and just over $500,000 in economic impact. This year's race has drawn participants from a record 59 countries, so it is growing its international reputation. There's a couple of important people here in the notes, which they've already got enough fame, but high-profile people like the mayor and whatnot are saying how it's such a benefit having this particular race weekend on the Gold Coast. Importantly, the marathon, half marathon, and 10K events are already sold out, but runners can still enter the 5, the 2K dash, or secure charity places for sold-out races. So I'm going to start with you, Tim. How good is this for Australian racing?
It's fantastic. I'm just trying to work out, is this the biggest event in Australia? 42,000 would make it bigger than maybe Sydney Marathon weekend. What did they get last year? About 36,000 and maybe another 5,000 for our 5K. So they put them on about 41,000 last year for the Sydney Marathon weekend. Melbourne Marathon would be around 40-odd thousand, I would imagine, for the weekend, maybe less. I'm not sure.
They're saying 50,000 this year for the Melbourne Marathon Festival.
Okay, so it's keeping it up there as being one of the biggest events for running in Australia, and as you say, it is one we all do and we love it very much. It is a great weekend away down there. And what I love about it is it's an even spread of events over the Saturday and the Sunday. You get good races on both days. 59 countries is huge. So, yeah, no.
But anyway, that's the news.
All right. Thanks for that, Tony. Now, before we go to the main topic tonight, guys, let's listen to Tara's next clue in Tara's trivia.
Excellent. So I have gold in the 2016 Rio Olympics and also in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics.
I know.
Of course you would, Tim.
Do you have any idea, Lucia?
I do, but the gold in Rio's throwing me a bit.
Yep. I think I know too. So all good. Keep going.
Medaled at 4 Olympics, yeah?
Yeah. And it's a runner that's progressed from the 5,000 and obviously into bigger races. So longer races.
Oh, is the gold in a bigger race?
Well,
Are you making an assumption here?
Yes, I am. Is that all right?
You can make any assumption you would like to.
And with his birthday, it's probably close to Melbourne Cup, so he's a stayer. So 5th of November.
We were talking goats before, but anyway.
Yeah, we were.
Anyway, yeah, we will keep moving on anyway. So now, guys, we're going to turn our attention to finding the right shoe for you. Now, buying running shoes should be a very simple equation. You've got feet, you need to put something on them, and you need to be able to run in them. But somewhere along the lines over the last 10 years, 15 years, it's become overwhelming. There's too many choices. There's buzzwords out there. There's influencer hype. Everyone's talking about foam types and densities and all sorts of things, carbon plates. And they seem to be getting more and more expensive, and you can get less and less runtime out of each of those shoes. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we work out what is the best shoe and how it works for people. You know, obviously the elites and influencers, they're one type of runner out there. Then you have, your people who are running hard, and then you've got us back of the packers as well. So I'm just going to, I guess, open it up as a conversation amongst ourselves, and I might kick it off with you, Tony, around your experience, I guess, of buying running shoes and where you would turn to in the past for some advice and information, and how you would sort of determine a shoe that was good for you.
Just generally, I guess when I first started running, I turned to no one. So I just bought my first pair of shoes when I was on holidays in Yamba, to be honest, at the sports store there. And they're a Adidas Cloud Foam pair. And they promptly died probably midway through 2018, I guess. So I don't necessarily go to any one particularly for information or experience around shoes. I did get my gait tested very early in the pace, and I do know I overpronate, so I need support shoes. So the first pair I bought was an Asics pair of Kayano 23s, and then I've just basically cycled through a couple of different styles of support shoes, and am now sitting with my Saucony Tempest as my favorite running shoes. So, and really that's just been a little bit of trial, a little bit of error, and a little bit of listening to, shoe reviewers that I trust, and not ones that are fundamentally putting out a shoe review without running in them. So, and my go-to is, of course, as we know, Chris Ford from 40s Run. So that's my experience.
Yep. And Lucia, did you get any advice when you first bought your first pair of shoes, or did you just trust the guy behind the counter, or you just wing it?
I got fitted. It was I think for my first marathon, and it was a store in Western Sydney, and he was very well known in the area for being like a good shoe expert. So I trusted them, but then admittedly I did then go buy. Well, I did buy them from him, but then I went online later to buy like later models and stuff. So I've only been fitted properly probably 2 or 3 times. I've been quite lucky that because I need a wide shoe because I've got a wide foot. So there are only certain shoes that I can wear. So I haven't had too many problems. But yeah, I was fitted the first time, and then about 18 months ago again. So I think don't go in blind. If you think that a certain shoe will fit you, take the time and get fitted and go to a reputable running store.
So when you mean get fitted, is that put your foot in the little silver plate thing and they slide the sides up and down and work out the size and the width you are? Or what do you mean by get fitted?
That was one step of it, but then some stores will also have a treadmill and they'll actually get you running on the treadmill, and so that way they can see. I actually did one, when was it? I think 2 years ago before Sydney, and we actually went to ASIC's store. Like we all got on the treadmill, we ran for like a minute or two, and they could actually see the analysis as to how our foot was moving, and so therefore they could recommend what shoes. But then some places have just done just the foot on the silver thing, like when kids go and get their school shoes.
Yep.
So
you put your foot in, and then
correct. Yes. So I've done kind of both scales.
Okay.
That's exactly what I was picturing, Lucia, you getting your school shoes fitted. So
pigtails.
Yeah.
But no, if only I had pigtails back then. That's another episode.
And Tara, I guess what's your experience? Because I know with you, when you started running, you had some ITB issues and some other things. So you probably come in at a different way, I guess, than what Tony and Lucia did. You didn't necessarily go in blind, did you?
Not probably as blind as that. I used to do obstacle racing, so I used to wear things like Salamins, which are quite narrow. They've got a decent tread on them. They're designed for going through the mud and the trails. Definitely not the right shoes for running in. So when I started running, I saw I'm not begging athlete's foot because they actually got some pretty good people there, but one of the athletes' feet people in Mizuno, I think they were, and it caused really bad plantar fasciitis to the point where it actually ended up ripping the fascia off the bottom of my foot and creating a massive scar tissue underneath. So that took me about 3 years to be able to actually get over that. The reason I got over it is because I started seeing a proper sports podiatrist. Now, Nick, our sports podiatrist, I know we've talked about before, but he custom makes our orthotics for us. He looks at our gait, he looks at how we run, and he just advises me exactly what shoe I need to have. And because I wear orthotics, they have to be a neutral shoe because otherwise the orthotics aren't going to do the work that they need. So he tells me every single time I go in once a year, get new orthotics made up, and he'll tell me, get this version of this shoe for this time, don't go to this version of that shoe. So I have probably gone into it in a completely different way to what most people do, but I'm pretty particular with my shoes because I do not want to go back to where I was when I had that really bad foot problem where I couldn't even weight bear on it. So
yeah, and that's and since then, I guess because you've taken that advice and listened to that advice, you haven't had too many issues. You haven't had a lot of plantar fascia issues and hips and knees.
No ITB issues anymore.
Yep.
Everything's back in alignment the way it should be. Yep.
So I guess that comes to the next point, I guess, which I want to talk about is a little bit around the marketing hype. We've all seen, the winners of the London Marathon hold up their shoes. We've seen it after other races in Berlin where they hold up their shoes and they've got the timing on there and world record next to it. That's huge marketing for those companies, particularly Adidas in recent times. And that does, for those companies, translate into a lot of millions of dollars worth of shoes sold worldwide. And there are a lot of people out there that will buy a shoe based on the marketing hype. There are people out there that are looking for those extra seconds per kilometre in time, and if a lighter shoe or a faster shoe comes along, they're willing to take it. Now, that's great, but with that comes some issues, I guess, in that, you may have a shoe that's not necessarily fitted well for you. Have you guys ever bought a shoe based on the marketing and the hype around it, or have you shied away from it? And if you did buy one because of the marketing, what was the reason for buying it, I guess, other than for the marketing? I might start with you this time, Lucia.
Has it been a major decision? No, because a lot of the shoes, I tend to run in a lot of ASICS and a bit of Nike. So I don't know if I would necessarily buy a shoe based on marketing from a different brand. But like a classic example, when ASICS did a promotion, when they launched the Super Blast 3 a month or two ago, I may and may not have liked the color of the shoe and the way they did that launch was done down at Bondi Beach. So naturally, yes, I did have to get a pair. But let me preface that by saying I did already have a pair of the Super Blast 2. So sometimes I may fall for it if it's a brand that I use currently. So, for instance, I wouldn't get sucked in for a brand that I've never run in before.
Yeah. And with that, I guess, Lucia, comes other problems, right? So we find that Tara and I run in Brooks Ghosts or Glycerins, but they change as well. So just because we're running in the Ghosts or you're running in the Nova Blast 2 might change to Nova Blast 3, and then all of a sudden it's a different shoe all over again. Does that then obviously creates other problems as well? So have you had that experience? Yep.
No, because before I bought them, I've gone into a store and tried them on just to see, are they still suitable for my feet? Have they changed the width of the shoe? So before I go out and buy it, I'll actually go in store and try them on first, just to make sure, okay, are my feet going to like them?
Yeah. And what about you, Tony? Have you bought shoes before based on the hype and then found that they're different as you go between models?
No, I can't say I necessarily bought a pair of shoes because of the hype, but what I keep interested in what's happening in the shoe world. So I keep interested in what's happening in the shoe world, and I'll tune into, Believe in the Run or 40 Runs or who do decent shoe reviews, and I'll listen to what's being said. But fundamentally know that they can throw money at advertising all they want. It's not going to make me want to buy a pair of Adidas Evo 3s or what have you. Interesting, while we're talking about this, and I know we're going to talk about where to buy them a little bit later on, but I had to go for a walk DFO recently. I think it was last weekend. I said, Sharon, we just need to go for a walk and look at shoes, right? And so Nike had the Nike shop at airport had Alpha Fly 3s. Puma had their super shoes there in the clearance shop. ASICS didn't have any, of course. But it was just so interesting. I've never seen super shoes sitting. Oh, sorry. And New Balance also had some of their super shoes. I've never seen super shoes sitting in clearance shops. So maybe the marketing hype's a little bit more hype than reality. So, but I tried on a pair of, say, Adidas SL Evo, whatever they're called, going back 6 months, and they just felt so firm to me that no amount of marketing now will ever get me into an Adidas pair of shoes, because it just felt horrible. So, but yeah, no, I've never bought a pair for marketing hype.
Yeah. And Tara?
Definitely not marketing hype. I will look at colours. I will go by the brand of shoe and the style of shoe that I like to run in based on colours, but definitely not for marketing hype. No.
So what I guess you're all saying to me is you found your shoes that you like to run in, and you're loyal to that brand and loyal to that model. And if it does deviate a little bit, you may continue with that model or maybe move to another model sideways. Is that right? No.
If Nick, my podiatrist, told me to move to Nike Pegasus or a Evo Fly, I would do it. I would listen to him, and I wouldn't even question it. So, yeah, I would go with whatever he tells me to run in.
Yep.
I've been seeing him for
You guys-
10 years, so he knows my body
Yep.
very well. Sorry.
No, I was going to ask a random one to you, Tara. So you would listen to Nick and what shoe he would say to go. But just say if you saw a pair of shoes that you really liked, and he said no, would you go against his advice just because you really like the shoes?
No, definitely not. I know
So
how
you
much
would
pain I was in. Sorry, yeah, I would not go against his advice just because I like a pair of shoes. No. I've been in too much of the hurt locker in the past. I don't want to go back there ever again.
Yeah, I don't always wear the Tempers, but I do stick to the brand Saucony because they just fit me. So there's just something about the brand. It's got to be an 8mm drop. It's, so because I've worn a couple of different of the model names in Saucony. I keep going back to the Tempest because that's like a good old favorite friend. But every shoe I've tried with the Saucony brand has been good for me. So,
yeah. All right, and I guess the things people need to know when they do go into a running store is that a shoe is not a shoe, right? So there's all sorts of things that people will see when they purchase a shoe. There's things like the foam type and the particularly the midsole foam. It's sometimes softer, sometimes firmer. Softer doesn't necessarily mean it's more pleasant to run in. In fact, I'm running in at the moment Glycerin 22s, Brooks Glycerin 22s, and I find that the foam being so softened compared to what I'm used to actually does make it a little bit more sore on my balls of my feet where I am rolling my foot over, particularly over a long run. So softer doesn't always mean a more comfortable ride, but sometimes it does for some people. Sometimes a firmer shoe can also, firmer foams can also make you feel sore in your feet as well. Stack height as well is one of those things. So that's the thickness of the foams and where they sit and how high you're sitting up off the road can also affect people, and it can also affect the stability of the shoe and make you feel like you're going to fall over, particularly if you've got weaker ankles and things like that. There is the drop, which you'll hear about regularly. And the drop is essentially the difference between your height of your heel and your height of your toes or your flat part of your foot. So a 12mm drop would indicate that your heel is sitting 12mm higher than your toes. I've got that right, haven't I? Yes. And then, the upper is obviously the stitching that's on top of the sole, and then you've got the outsole, which is the tread, and that's the grip. And some people, and on some shoes, if you're a toe runner, will only have grip and an outer sole on the front part of your shoe, whereas others who are more heel strikers will have a different sort of a grip or an outsole on the bottom there. So there are different types of shoes for different runners, and I guess for you guys out there, does that really matter much to you, or are you now so familiar with what you need and know that you don't really worry about foams and stack heights and drops and the upper composition and the outsole? Let's start with you, Tara. You're probably an easy one there.
So I have, most people on here know that I run Ghosts or Glycerin. So my Ghosts I will run in for my long distance road running, and a lot of people sit there and tell me that that's the wrong shoe to run in for marathons. Don't care, it works for me. I wear my Glycerins when I am on a flat path because they don't have the same sort of stability as what the Ghosts do. The Ghosts I find are gentler on my ITB when I'm on the roads. So when you're on the road, obviously you've got the camphor of the road. So that actually compensates for that a lot better. Whereas when I'm running just out at Sandgate, where it's a flat footpath the whole entire time, my Glycerins are perfect for that because they don't have any of that instability or different gradients on them. So no, I definitely change my shoes around depending on what run I'm doing. It just happens that both of mine are the Ghosts. Both of mine are Brooks.
Yeah.
That I run in, so yeah.
With similar stack heights and drops and types of foam as well. So you don't feel you're getting a different ride.
I don't feel like I'm changing shoes drastically between them, no.
Yeah. What about you, Tony? Does any of that stuff really bother you or matter to you when you're looking at shoes?
Yeah, the drops are most important for me. So 8mm drop just works. I tried a pair of 4mm drop and the amount of pressure on the calves was just incredible. So I stopped doing that. I used to run in the Brooks Adrenaline, which was a 10 mil drop. And before I moved into the Sauconys, which were an 8 mil drop, I sort of transitioned. So I'd do some runs in the Adrenaline, some runs, and then start to feed more runs into the Saucony. So I like a big stack height. So I think the Tempest sits around 36 mil at the back on the heel. But the Kinvara Pro or the Endorphin Trainer sits just over 40 mil. So I like a big stack height. I like a bit of padding underneath me, so to speak. So, and I'm a little bit like you, Tim. If the foam's too soft, it can be a little bit unsettling. But I think the Endorphin Trainer, for example, has got the incredible, the softest foam the Incredible. I think it's a stupid name for a foam, but that's what they called it. They've got a layer of that, and then they've got the old PB foam underneath. So you've got that firm foam that's on the deck, and then you've got the softer foam where you sort of put land. So took a little bit of getting used to, but it's a good shoe to run in. But the drop for me is the most important. So it's got to be 8 mil, because I know, and whether it's subconscious or whether it's just mindset, I don't really know. But I put on a pair of my 8 mil drop shoes, whichever the ones they may be, and I just know I'm going to not have a great deal of issues. So.
Yeah, most of it would be body mechanics, right? If you're saying you're getting pain when you run in 4 mil, but you don't get it in 8 mil, it's because of the tightening of your tendons and your muscle fibers and all that sort of stuff work better in that interval. And I can tell you, even for myself, 1 or 2 mils can make a big difference to me. And it's something that surprises Nick, our podiatrist, that I can really feel something that's a millimeter or half a millimeter difference than what it was previously. And you can notice it, I guess, when you're taking 30, 40, 50,000 steps in a marathon, you're going to notice a few millimeters or half a mil difference over time. What about you, Lucia? Do you get worried about those things, stack heights and drops and, the composition of the uppers? And do you get into all that science around it, or do you just know what works?
I get into it a little bit because I know what doesn't work for my feet. So I was at a event a couple of months ago, and we did a shoe trial. And I was really excited. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try this shoe on because I'd heard great things about it. And it had quite a high stack across the whole shoe. And when I tried it on and walked in, it just, for me, it felt unstable. So I can't do ones which are too high, and certain shoes that, a few years ago, I did a shoe test. And I tried on. I know some people rave about them. I just couldn't get used to them. I had to take them off. It was just weird. So I find the ones that have a not too high stack height at the back and a bit lower down the bottom. See, whereas I love the softness of the shoe. I love the shoes which have foam, which I think that's why I like Asics and some Nike ones a lot, just because of how soft they are. And I feel for my feet that works better. But yet some people, they like to have minimal stack and like to feel the pavement underneath their feet, whereas my feet aren't suited for that. So whilst I pay attention to it a little bit, it's not a key. It's not groundbreaking for me. Or sorry, a deal breaker, I should say.
But there is a part to it, I guess, and this is what I'm talking about earlier with Tony around the 4 and 8 millimeters or 12 millimeters, is you do need to know what works for you, but you need to understand stack height and drops, particularly because of the risk of injury that can occur, particularly over a longer race, a half marathon, a marathon, where you are taking 20, 30, 50,000 steps, plus all the training. If you get it wrong, you could lead to an injury, couldn't you?
Oh, and then the other thing that I think sometimes people may not take into account is, let's say if you've gone from a 8 mil stack and then go right down to a barefoot shoe, that's the worst thing you could possibly do, because your foot is not going to be used to that drop so instant. So if anyone is thinking of doing that, do it in stages and get professionally fitted as to the best ones, because going from 8 to 0, for argument's sake, your feet are not going to like you. Just because people may do it, just because influencers may do it, but it doesn't mean it's right for everyone.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of
influencers
just running anything like Kafusi. He runs in all different drop shoes and different styles of shoes all the time and can interchange between them quite happily, whereas other people can't. So
Yeah, no, it is important. The important thing is if you have some shoes or you want to understand how your shoe compares to other shoes, there are some good websites out there. Probably the best one that I'd recommend is a website called Run Repeat, and they do real scientific analysis on all the latest running shoes out there. They literally slice them up, cut them in half, pull apart the foam, measure with a micrometer the thickness of all the materials in it, and give you all the details. So if you've got a great pair of shoes that you like running in and it's either discontinued or they've changed it, Run Repeat is a really good website to go to. So you can type in the shoe you've got and it will give you similar types of shoes that have got the same type of stack height and all the rest of it. Now, speaking of which, I did go under Run Repeat and I did look at the Adidas Adizero Evo Pro 3, the world record shoe. And as a super shoe, I can tell you it is fascinating when you go onto this website and have a look at how it's made. There is it's all science in the foam and it's all science in the feel of the shoe, I guess, on the foot. But as far as the upper material, there's not a lot there. Obviously, there's a lot of science gone into it to make sure that there's not a lot of material up on top. There's very little heel support. There's very little tongue support. And you're right, Lucia, when you talked about feeling unstable on these things, they show pictures of people walking in them and their ankles and knees rolling all over the place as they're walking and running in them. So super shoes are one of those things that everyone would love to have, but they're not right for everybody. And I guess they can make you feel fast. They can help you on race day for experienced runners. But Tony, I guess, what are some of the negatives or the downsides of owning a super shoe? I guess one of them would be the cost, and I guess another one might be around the distance you can actually run in them.
Yeah, there's a lot of, but yeah, there are negatives in running with carbon plated shoes, or whether it's a super trainer or a race day shoe. Race day shoes, like the recent one, I find it fascinating that all these influencers have to go out and suddenly do previews on these shoes. I'm thinking, isn't a sub 2 enough preview? Do we really need to know your opinion on it? So, but anyway, that's just me being a little bit facetious. And the other thing about influencers, of course, is what happens with all the shoes they get. I mean, seriously, how can you run in them all? It does my head in. But anyway, yeah, there are some. I think the research. There's a little bit more research now being done around super shoes and carbon plates and whatnot. And the carbon plate does provide energy return for people if you've got good form and if you've got a good natural stride. But it can create issues if you haven't strengthened your hips, etc., and whatnot. So don't just buy a pair of carbon plates and think you're suddenly going to run quicker. You may, but most likely not. And if you haven't built yourself up with some strength training or just doing some cross-functional training, you may actually find that the shoe's going to hurt you more than it helps you. So, but yeah, I think price is ridiculous for a lot of these shoes at the moment. And, you know, just because a shoe has a carbon plate in it doesn't mean it's the best shoe for you. So I think it's just really, really important to acknowledge that. So the one thing that is important to note, but is a shoe is going to make you feel a certain way. So if you're lining up and you've got it in your head that the shoe's going to help you, there's a positive kickback there mentally, but that may all account for nothing if it's going to hurt you physically. So just be mindful, because we do get a bit of a rush when we buy a new pair of shoes. I've been searching shoe shops as we've been talking about it. So just on my other screen here, I just wish I could run. But yeah, so carbon plates can be good if you've got good form and you know exactly what it is that you're looking for. But fundamentally, for a lot of the people that we run with, a lot of our community, there's probably not a great deal of need for them. So,
yeah. And Taro, have you got any sort of thoughts on super shoes, or would you ever run in them? I guess with your feet, probably not.
Definitely not for me. I have seen so many people that get injured and then unable to run from it, especially when they first come out and there was the big hype from it. I think you have to be designed in a certain way to be able to run in them. I think you need to know, as Tony said, might speed you up, but it's not going to speed you up to this distance or the speed that you're probably expecting it to. You're better off doing some speed work, strength training, and working on that side of things rather than expecting a magical cure or a magical pill, as to say, to make you faster. It's not a magic trick that's going to make you faster.
No, and I came across this quote the other day that says, if you don't know why you need a super shoe, you probably don't. And I think, Lucia, you would probably agree with that quote as well.
100%. Like, I do wear super shoes. So my last couple of marathons have been in a Vapor Flies. I don't get the speed out of them during the race. It's just how I run. It's just my style, and I'm fine with that. But where I find they help me is the post-race recovery. I find I'm not as sore post-race, and that's happened each time I've worn carbon-plated shoes. So that's why I wear them. But again, I don't wear them all the time, because you shouldn't wear super shoes, carbon-plated shoes for everyday runs, because they're not designed for that.
Yeah. Plus the technology in a lot of the super shoes are just making them lighter and lighter and lighter. So I run in this Coney's Endorphin Speeds, and they've got a nylon plate in them. So, and they're just so light. It's almost like you're wearing nothing. But as Lucia said, I don't run in them all the time. And if I'm looking for an old favourite to go for a run in, I pull on my Tempest and away I go.
Yeah. And I guess it's one which is probably the next bit of it, is everyone has different feet. Everyone has different needs. Everyone is looking for different things, right? So if you're a 5K park runner, you probably don't need a super shoe for a 5K park run, but you need a good sturdy shoe that's going to suit your feet and last you for many park runs to go in the future. And there are different types of feet. You know, there are neutral feet. There are people who overpronate. There's people who supinate or underpronate. So that's where your feet rolls outwards. Inwards rolling is your pronation. There's people with high arches. There's people that strike first with their heel rather than their midfoot or their toes. So everyone is a little bit different. But just because you have a different style of foot doesn't mean there isn't a shoe out there for your style of foot. So it is important that you find the right shoe for your foot, and that's where going to somebody who is the right person to give you the right advice is the right thing. You know, Tara's talked about going to a sports podiatrist, which both Tara and myself see, but there is a difference, I guess, guys, as well, between a shoe shop like a Mass Chain shop, a JD Sports or a Rebel Sport or something like that, or going to a proper running store where you've got somebody there who knows about your feet, knows about the different types of shoes that suit your foot. And there is probably a big difference in that, I guess, Tony.
Yeah, 100%. So you go to a shop like Wildfire at Milton, for example, and you're going to get some expert advice. I went to Pace Warehouse once when I was in Sydney, got really good advice. So you very rarely get the same level of advice at some of the chain stores. So, but the thing that, like, you don't go to a store, get the advice, try on the shoes, and then buy them online. It's because if we keep doing that, these stores aren't going to be around. So it is really important to, if you're availing yourself of the advice or the tools that they have, support them.
Yeah. All right. And Tara, how should a running shoe feel on your foot when you get it, when you're actually trying it on in the shop?
I always like to think it should fit like a glove. When I put my feet into a shoe, so I'm like the chair, I've got very wide feet. I always get steered toward the female section. I don't actually like female shoes. I don't find them wide enough. They do have higher arches in them than the male shoes. I find the male shoes fit me much nicer. So when I go in, I like to be able to make sure my feet, I can wiggle my toes is the nicest way to put it to start with. I like to be able to feel like Lucia. I like that sponginess underneath my feet. I like to feel like I'm walking on clouds or pillows. My feet are nice and comfortable. And I know after 21Ks or 42Ks, whatever distance I'm doing in them, yes, they may hurt, but they're not going to hurt as much as if they were squished into a pair of shoes that already don't feel comfortable to start with. So to me, it should feel like a glove or like second nature to put them on.
Yep. And Lucia, have you got any tips for how a shoe should feel when you're in the shop?
They should feel very similar to Tara. It should feel like you're walking on air or on a pillow. Make sure you've got a thumb width room in between your in between your big toe and the end of the shoe, and they shouldn't feel too tight. I'm not going to go too much into anything else because I cover that in my tip. So yeah, very similar to Tara.
All right. And I guess if you're noticing the shoe while you're in the shop or it feels off, it's only going to feel worse later on. And if you notice the shoe while you're running, then it's probably the wrong shoe as well, I would imagine. You should be able to run and not actually have to think or worry about your shoes a lot of the time. So, Tony, just to wrap things up there as well, you've got some great tips around buying shoes and where to buy shoes from and how you should buy your shoes. You just mentioned try and buy them locally, but, we don't always buy them locally. So what tips have you got there around buying shoes and being smart with how you buy your shoes?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different cycles in the running season where you see new models dropped in or upgrades or updates or whatever. So if you are looking to get a pair of shoes and you want expert advice, go to a running shop and buy your first pair through the advice that they have. But once you've, like with myself, and I'll only talk from my experience, I'm really comfortable with the as I said, the Saucony brand or the Saucony brand, however you want to say it. And so I know if it's 8mm drop and it's a Saucony, it's probably going to fit okay, right? So, and I know the Tempest. So if the Tempest is now the Tempest 2, and it's moving into, there'll be a Tempest 3 come out probably mid-year in July. And so I know that as we're gearing up towards that release of the new model, the Tempest 2 didn't change much from the Tempest 1. It was just bit of an upper change. They're suggesting a very similar, very minimal change to the shoe for the Tempest 3. So I know the Tempest 3 is going to be a good shoe, but I also know they're going to start running out the Tempest 2. So when stores and online sites start running out a shoe, that's the time to buy. So if you know your brand, if you know your style, like the Ghosts, for example, what are we on now with the Ghosts? It's about those
18.
18.
Yeah.
So as the 18 comes online and you can feel the marketing, they're going to be running out the 17. And it's, if you're comfortable in the 17, stock up. I know people all the time that are buying shoes when they see them on special and really making sure that they've got their favorite running shoe moving forward. So I've always found that to be a very affordable way to do it. So.
Cool. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there because we are running out of time. So just as a final comment for our listeners, shoes won't make you an elite runner, no matter how good a shoes they are. They won't replace training, but shoes shouldn't hurt. And running should feel enjoyable when you are running. You shouldn't be thinking about your shoes. Forget the hype and buy the shoe that lets you just show up week after week, day after day, and enjoy your runs. So I'm going to end it there, guys, and we're going to jump into the third and final clue of Tara's trivia. Tara, what's your final clue?
Alrighty, so I guess we all probably know who I'm talking about, but yes, it was a gold medal, Tony, that you were looking at for the Rio. He also holds the world record for he holds the world record for the longest period of time. No, this isn't going to make sense now because I've lost my Anyway, we all know who it is.
Yes, former world record holder, first person to run under sub 2 hours unofficially.
Yep.
Yeah. It's the GOAT, Elliot Kipchoge.
And doesn't have 3 legs.
No, this one doesn't have 3 legs. He only has 2.
Elliot Kipchoge. Well done.
I was almost lining up for it beforehand with my GOAT talk.
All right. Thanks for that, Tara. And he is a GOAT. I can tell you that. No matter what people say, he is and will always be the GOAT. Now it's time to go to Lucia for Lucia's tip of the week.
Lucia's tip, it stays in my ear. One step closer, the path grows clear. Tim's advice fades like a Scripture's wisdom puts my soul at ease.
Tip of the week. Lucia, what's your tip this week?
I'm going to keep it simple this week, guys, so this may shock you. So what I want to say to people is when you're buying shoes, base it on how your feet are feeling while running, not just on the style or the brand. And as I said earlier, make sure there's a good amount of space in between the your big toe and the front of the toe box, and make sure you're buying a shoe that's right for you and not a shoe, and that you're not buying a shoe just based on the hype. So so just keeping it nice and simple this week, and that's my tip.
Simple is how it should be when it comes to shoes, but unfortunately the marketing makes it more complex. So thanks, Lucia. This episode is about to end, but before we do that, Tony, what is on next week's show?
Well, next week on the Flying RuNR Podcast, we're turning the volume up and diving into the role music plays in our running lives, from long runs that feel easier with the right beat to tempo efforts where a song can carry you through the tough patch. We'll talk about how music can motivate, distract, calm, and sometimes completely change the feel of a run, whether you're someone who never leaves the house without their headphones or someone who prefers to hear every footstep and bird call. This episode is all about how sound influences the way we move. We also get a little bit personal as we open up on what's actually on our playlist. There's no prizes for guessing what's on my playlist when we head out the door. The songs that lift us, the guilty pleasures we secretly love, and the tracks that lift us. Along the way, we'll chat about when music helps, when it doesn't, and why there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's a fun, relaxed conversation about one of the simplest joys of running, pressing play, zoning in or zoning out, and letting the kilometers roll by. As we keep saying, we are the only podcast with 5 7-star world major marathoners. And as usual, this is going to be a great episode and definitely one not to be missed.
Thanks, Tony. I would imagine it's Your Pace and Glory that will be on your playlist, but we'll find out next week, won't we?
And funnily enough, Tim, I've got another song coming out in 2 weeks, and it's all about your paranoia. So
Perfect. I can't wait for it. All right. Thanks, Tony. That's it for this week's show. As usual, it's been another fun one, and hopefully we've given everyone a laugh or two along the way. Thanks, guys, for joining us tonight. But we really love making this podcast for you, our listeners. So why not contact us with a message on all the usuals, Instagram, Facebook, or via our email at happyrunning@flyingrunner.com, and tell us your thoughts. We love getting feedback, so why not tell us about why you wear the shoes that you do? You can watch this episode on Spotify, YouTube, or listen to us on Apple, Amazon, and all other major platforms. Every step counts. Keep running. And we'll see you next time on the Flying RuNR Podcast. Until then, happy running.
Happy running.
Teach the flying runner, run far, run free. Host the 7 stars, inclusive as can be. It's the flying runner for you and me. He's the flying runner, run far, run free. Host the 7 stars, inclusive as can be. It's the flying RuNR for you and me. Oh, oh, oh. It's the flying RuNR for you